barbecue, but two of the more popular methods are low and slow and direct grilling. Direct grilling is the most primitive of all the barbecue cook methods, with the only real requirements being meat and fire. Low and slow, or cooking meats at lower temperatures for long periods of time, goes hand in hand with a purpose-built smoker or cooking chamber that allows the meat to be placed away from the direct heat or flame. There's such theatre in watching meat cook over fire. The lick of the flame, the smell of the smoke, and the sizzle of that rendered fat dripping onto the coals. Once regarded as secondary cuts, the beef brisket, beef ribs, pork butt or lamb shoulder are perfect for low and slow barbecuing. The generally tough or fatty cuts tenderize to reveal tasty, soft, flavourful qualities when given the care and time to transform at the lower cooking temperatures. Direct grilling lends itself to leaner, more traditional cuts you'll buy from most butchers, such as steak, tri-tip, chicken wings, seafood, or even pork roll to make that perfect crackle. Versatile cuts of meat perfect for either low and slow or direct grilling will be your pork ribs, lamb cutlets, lamb ribs, burger patties, or even chicken wings. Beef is usually the answer when asking what the premier meat to cook over fire is. Beef ribs are popular, as are thick-cut tomahawk steaks, but beef brisket tops the list for the go-to cut for low and slow cooking. The beef brisket is one of the most challenging of all cuts to cook on the smoker, but when you get it just right, that bark, the tenderness, and tasting the juicy, smoky mouthful of that perfectly cooked beef brisket is where barbecue becomes an obsession.
We really enjoy cooking brisket. For us, it's the holy grail of barbecue. I mean, for us, you know, when you can sort of nail a brisket, it's actually it is a life-changing moment. I think it took me 5 times before we actually even got a brisket that was edible. I mean, it was a crazy process.
So my favourite cut to cook at a comp is beef brisket. It's just nice. You know, we do a comp trim, separating the point and the flat, and then we cook them in the UDS, put them in there, and let the brisket just ride it out until it's ready, and they usually bring out good results.
Everybody always asks me, you know, what are my favorite cuts? Well, we're from Texas. What do you think, man? It's the brisket. To be from Texas, you better know how to cook a freaking brisket the right way. But, you know, beef ribs, anything beef. You know, I love to cook beef cheek. It doesn't matter, but those are my top 3 that I always like to cook.
Being from Texas, we're beef lovers. We love beef. I love brisket. I love a good monster beef rib.
The briskets kind of go through a stage as they cook. You know, when they're limp and raw, they're going to be very pliable and whatnot, and as they cook, they'll kind of tighten up as they're drawing in the smoke and the heat and everything. We kind of start them towards the back of the pit, maybe a little lower. We're going to run those for about 5 or 6 hours at a lower temp, maybe around 200, 220, something like that. And then what we're feeling for is when that starts to loosen up, and that's happening whenever the fat's getting good and cooked out or rendered out in there the way you want it, and it's just by a feel. You don't want a lot of bounce, you want a little give, more give than bounce.
My favourite thing to cook is beef short ribs. I don't do anything too unique with them. I keep it pretty simple. I like to cook them quite high, up about 275, 300, cook for about 6 to 8 hours. And again, just looking for that nice bark, that salty crust, and that tender meat that just sits on top of the bone.
I love steak. I think steak's my absolute favourite. It's simple and it's one of the most delicious things in the world to me.
I think my favourite thing to cook at the moment, like I'm sort of into like a lot of reverse searing steaks and stuff, and quick grill, you know, that sort of gear. And those funny offcuts of beef, like your deckle, which is great for like Philly cheesesteaks or flank steaks, the ones that people don't really into as much.
When it comes to pork, it was made for the barbecue. The whole hog offers pockets of goodness from head to tail, with the jowl, the loin, the hams and shoulder all offering vastly different textures. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that doesn't love the juicy, saucy and sweet meat tasting barbecue pork spare ribs.
You know, I really love cooking ribs. I started barbecue cooking ribs. I saw ribs in these nice racks and I said, oh, I want to do this awesome rack of ribs. So I really enjoy ribs. I'll cook ribs, I'll hang them in my drum, I'll put them on my Gateway smoker, I'll put them on my GMG, I'll cook ribs anyway. That one bite you get out of a good pork rib, it's just melting your mouth, and I'll cook ribs every day.
My favorite thing to cook is actually ribs. I just like it because it's easy. It's a good one for people starting out to do. So when I cook, I like to also be able to go, and you can do this at home too. So it's a really good starter one. And I like to eat ribs.
So one of my favourite cuts to cook is baby back ribs. I love cooking them just on my Weber kettle, nothing flash, a couple of different rubs, some local made sauces. Nothing better than a well cooked rib really. I love my briskets as well, but ribs take number one for me.
Australia and New Zealand produce some of the best lamb in the world and are leading the way in developing techniques and flavour profiles to complement the natural flavours of the meat. Lamb ribs can be cooked hot and fast directly over the fire, or can break down gently and tenderise to fall off the bone when cooked low and slow.
So one of my favourite cuts, especially on our menu, is our lamb ribs. They are awesome to smoke, they always come out perfect, and every time I eat them, I think, damn, that is what I want to eat again.
I think I'm really excited today. We're cooking lamb. I think it pairs beautifully with smoke. You can really experiment with the flavours and use bold flavours with the lamb. You've got garlic and your cumin, etc. It's one of those things where smoke really enhances the natural flavours of it.
With barbecue, it's all about experimentation and variety. Whether it's venison, seafood, or the more traditional beef, chicken, pork or lamb, there's almost no boundaries to cooking meat over fire.
Here at Snow's, we cook brisket, pork steaks, spare ribs, chicken, sausage, and turkey breast. It's hard to say which one we would classify better than the others. It all takes time, it all has to be watched, and you just really have to pay attention to what you're doing. It takes a lot of tender love and care.
Join our series in discovering the world of barbecue. We visit the capital of modern barbecue, experience competition barbecue, and we get all the tips on how to get started. Subscribe to our series, share and hashtag Beyond the Flame.